Everyone knows that a placebo only works if you're tricked into thinking it's real. And if someone says a symptom is all in your brain, what they usually mean is you made it up. The problem is that both assumptions are false. Let's run the audit. Picture a doctor handing you a bottle that literally says placebo on it. They tell you openly there's nothing active in it. But they also tell you that people with your symptoms have still improved after taking it. You'd assume it can work. After all, you know the trick. Except knowing something and expecting something are not the same thing. And that's where things get interesting. This is not just a thought experiment. Clinical trials have observed this pattern across several conditions. People knowingly take inert pills. Some still show symptom relief. Not miracles, just enough measurable improvements to question whether deception is required for placebo effects. In one IBS trial, patients were told very plainly, these are placebo pills, basically inert sugar pills. And they were also told that the pills can still trigger improvement through mind-body processes. Those patients improved more than the untreated group, even though everyone knew exactly what they were swallowing. So what's actually happening? The short version is expectation and conditioning. And expectation is different from belief. If a clinician tells you this pill is a placebo, but has helped people like you, your brain still uses that as information. It starts adjusting expectations, which in turn adjusts how the brain processes signals like pain. These adjustments happen automatically, outside deliberate control. Traditional placebo research focused on deception and conscious belief. The research on open-label placebos shows the nervous system can still respond even when nothing is hidden. Now the same system can also work in the opposite direction. If the brain prepares for worse outcomes, symptoms can intensify. This is the nocebo effect. Negative expectation can make symptoms worse. Now, the link between expectation and symptom change also has a biological footprint. One strong clue comes from the body's own opioid system, the same system involved in natural pain relief. When researchers block that system with certain drugs like naloxone, the pain relief normally seen with placebos largely disappears. Still, expectation alone doesn't seem to explain the whole story. In one study, participants who all knew they were taking a placebo were split into two groups. One group received detailed explanation of how the placebo works, and the other did not. Turns out that adding positive expectations didn't change the outcome. Both showed improvements on physical symptoms. That's where another potential mechanism comes in: conditioning. You learn the ritual: pill, clinician, treatment setting, start meaning relief. Over time, the ritual itself becomes the trigger. Swallow something and your body preloads the response. Repeat a pattern often enough, the brain automates the response for efficiency. That's just a learned regulation loop. What expectation and conditioning share is this: neither requires you to believe. Research is increasingly pointing toward embodied cognition. The idea that the body carries and enacts responses that conscious thought doesn't initiate and can't easily override. And yet most people dismiss all of this with 3 words. This is where language trips us up. When someone says it's all in your head, they usually mean you're making it up. Yet everything you perceive goes through the brain. Pain, nausea, color, love. Pain is a brain output. It gets shaped by threat signals, past experiences, and context. So saying it's in your brain is no different than saying it's in your pancreas. Both organs regulate body functions. And if something is in your brain, it does have a neurobiological basis. Now, what all this doesn't mean: placebos working isn't proof that some people are naive. Expectation and conditioning operate independently of whether someone feels skeptical or convinced. Some might also say that if placebo worked, then the problem wasn't real. Yet pain, fatigue, nausea, all of these are real experiences in the nervous system. If context changes the output, that doesn't erase the suffering. It just shows the system is modifiable. And then we have the think it away mentality. Conscious thought is not the executive of the nervous system. Most regulation happens below it, automatically and through conditioning and prediction. You can influence the system, but mostly indirectly. And there's also a dark side. What we've just seen shows two important things. First, the brain, its expectations, its learning history, is part of how the body responds. Second, because the brain is already part of the process, placebo gives us a baseline, a reference point, a way to see whether a treatment does anything beyond what the brain is already doing. That's literally how most treatments, pharmacological or otherwise, get tested. Where things get messy is when the power or the limits of placebo get ignored. Claims like this herb cured my depression, or on the other side, this prescribed drug did nothing, can all become misleading conclusions. Because symptoms shift naturally across people, time, and context. You simply can't generalize a personal experience because it runs through a single nervous system. Without a reference point, you can't tell what's doing the work. Placebo research doesn't mean the suffering was imaginary or that the brain is all-powerful. It ruins the false mind-body split. It shows that psychology is not the opposite of biology. The brain is biology, and that insight is a tool rather than a moral judgment.